Hello and welcome. My name is Shannon Austin. I am the director of the Edmon Low Creative Studios here at the OSU Library, and today I'm going to be showing you how to get access to the library's 3D printers. So the library has 14 3D printers available for students to use for free, regardless of major. However, before you can get access, we require that everyone, regardless of any prior experience, go through a 1-hour training and certification process with me or one of my staff to ensure that you know how to operate the 3D printers properly. So if you go to the library's website, library.okstate.edu, and hover over Study Spaces and Computers, right here is the link to get access to 3D printing. You can see we've got all different types of printers to choose from. And here at the bottom of the page is where you will request your 3D certification and assessment training. Now, before you can request a certification with us, you have to do one thing, and that is demonstrate a cursory knowledge of 3D modeling by creating a 3D keychain out of a cylinder, a cube, some 3D text, and a torus or a ring. And you will export that as an STL file, and you'll attach that with your certification request. You'll put in your info up here, upload your model here, choose a time that works for you, hit submit, and wait for us to respond. So you can make the 3D keychain in any computer-aided design or CAD software of your choice. Maya, ZBrush, SolidWorks, does not matter to me. As long as it's in STL format and looks like a keychain, we'll get you in. Now, here's the problem. What if you don't know how to 3D model? That's what the rest of this video is for. If you have no experience 3D modeling whatsoever, watch the next 15 minutes of this, and I will walk you through, using a free software called Blender, how to make the required keychain so you can get in and start 3D printing. Okay, so let's get started. There is a link to download Blender directly off of the webpage, or you can just type in blender.org. It is an open source free software that is incredibly powerful, and anyone can learn to use it. The download button's up here. The file size is hilariously small. Go ahead and get it downloaded and installed, and here she blows. Now, deep breath. Upon first opening, this software looks terrifying to someone who doesn't know what they're looking at. There is so much here. This software doesn't just do modeling, it supports the entirety of the 3D pipeline. It can do rendering and shading and sculpting and rigging and animation and physics and game design and all sorts of crazy stuff. Ignore that. We're just going to be using it for modeling, so don't panic. Ignore all this top stuff, ignore all this side stuff, ignore this stuff on the bottom. In fact, with this splash screen, just click anywhere off of it to get rid of that. Just focus on the 3D modeling, the viewport here. That's all we're going to be doing. Like most software applications, you really only need to know about 20% of it to get 100% functionality for what you specifically need. So again, ignore all this, focus right here. You got this. So before we get started, it is important that if you're doing this on a laptop, you're not going to be able to do this using just a trackpad. You have to have a 3-button mouse, left, right, and middle. Without a 3-button mouse, you are going to be so frustrated. You really cannot model without a mouse. There's multiple functions for each mouse button that you have to have. If you try to do this with a trackpad, you're going to be so frustrated. Honestly, I don't even think you can. If you haven't got a mouse, you can check one out from the library's main circulation desk and just plug it in, and then you're off to go. So here we go. Get a mouse. Step 1. Working in a 3D space requires you to view things from all angles. You need to learn how to rotate your view or orbit your view. So first and foremost, press down the middle mouse button and move your mouse from side to side, and you will, ta-da, we are orbiting. Rotating your view is crucial when you're working in a 3D space because you have to see things from all sides. By holding down the middle mouse button, move your mouse from side to side, you can rotate. If you push it up and down, you can see the front or the top and bottom of these objects. It is crucial. The gamers among you will be familiar with this one. If you roll the mouse wheel backwards, you will zoom out to see the enormous field of play. The canvas is essentially infinite in Blender, but we're just going to be working right here. But zooming is important. Zoom in by rolling the mouse wheel forward, zoom out by rolling it backward. Pretty straightforward. Middle mouse is all about perspective. Now you'll notice this red line here and this green line here, they're not here for no reason. These actually represent the axes that you're working with. We all know X and Y axis. That's pretty straightforward. Your X is your red, your Y is your green. But since we're in a 3D space, there's actually a third axis, and that is your Z axis. You'll also note up here in the right-hand corner, there's this thing called a gimbal. And as you rotate around, you'll see it tells you which axis is which, so you can know where you are and what you're working with. More importantly, these little toolbar balls here, you can actually click on them to set your view fixed to a specific axis. So if I click on this one that says Y, it's going to snap my view directly to the Y view. I'm viewing it straight on. You can still use the middle mouse button to rotate out of it, but it's very useful. If you need to see something directly from the side, moving it manually is going to be really, really hard to do. Click those buttons on the gimbal to really save yourself some trouble getting the appropriate view that you need. So you can click on X, Y, Z. Technically, you can view negative Y, which is it from just the other side, but using those fixed axes is very important. So, okay, viewing, rotating, zooming. There's one other aspect that you might need to use, and that is pan. To pan your view, like say if you had, I don't know, if you had another object on this side and you really wanted to zoom in close to it, you'll notice, hey, it's over here. To pan your view, just grab this little hand icon here below the gimbal, and you can drag your view over so you can adjust where you're looking specifically. So that's called panning. That's the easiest way to do that. But it's kind of niche, but it's kind of important to know. But for now, just know that it's there. Rotate, zoom, pan, knock yourself out. Next up, okay, you might have already noticed there's more than just this little cube here. What we have here is a rudimentary camera and light source. We're not going to be using those. We're not going to be doing any cool shading or graphics or video. We're just here to model, so we can get rid of these. So you can select the camera and the light source and just press delete on your keyboard to just get rid of them. If you are having trouble clicking it for some reason, you can also select it using the scene collection over here. See, you got the cube. There's the light source. You can select directly from here. And again, delete the light source, but leave the cube. That's one of our 4 objects that we're going to use oh, hello. That is one of our 4 components to our keychain. So keep the cube. All right, moving on. Now, second most important, moving things around. We can't just move one thing. You know, we're going to need to have multiple objects in here, and we need to be able to shift things in space. And if you've been clicking around on here, you'll notice that left clicking doesn't do anything, right clicking doesn't do anything. Stop getting ahead. Bear with me. There's method to this madness. Select your cube by clicking on it and press G on your keyboard. Just tap it. You don't have to hold it down. And you notice, ta-da, it is now locked to your mouse cursor. You can manually move the cube to wherever you want it to be. Now, here's what's important. While you're moving things, again, press G to grab, move it to like a different quadrant, move it over here, left click to lock it in place. You'll notice as I'm moving it, how did it get down there? When you move things, it's moving on all axes at once from your specific perspective, which can be a bit irritating. So this is where fixed axis moving is really, really helpful. So if you press G, it's locked to your mouse cursor. But if you press either X, Y, or Z after you press grab, it will only move it, ta-da, on that respective axis. So if I press G, if I want to get this back to the center, I'm going to press G, and then I'm going to press X. Nope, I'm going to press Y, and I'm going to get it right where I want it. And now I'm going to press G again, and then Z, and I'm going to smush it right back down where I want it. Pretty close. Now I'm going to press G, and then X, and it's right back where I want it to be. You'll notice also that I'm rotating my view as I model things. It's important to be constantly keeping your perspective shifted, because without that, it's going to be hard to see what you're working with. So that is movement. Select your object, press G, press your specific axis, and move it where you want it to be. Moving on, let's get the rest of the objects in here. We've got the cube, so we need to come up here and hit add, a simple mesh, a cylinder. There's our cylinder. You know what? Let's do all of them. Hit add, mesh, torus. That is your ring that's going to be at the edge of your keychain. By the way, torus is the mathematical word for a sphere that moves in a circle. Bit of trivia for you there. Ignore me. Come back up and hit add, and then hit, instead of mesh, you're just going to add text. That is upside down. Okay, that's important. When you add all of your objects, rotate your view around to where the text is facing you to just cut down on complication. You can rotate things, but it's honestly easier to just rotate or just keep it in the proper orientation. So, all right, here we go. Next step, we're almost done, believe it or not. We are going to grab our torus and again, press G. If you can't select, if you're having trouble selecting it, rotate your view around so you can get a good view on it, or use your scene collection here. Select your torus, press G, and then press X and slide it over to the left. That's where we want it. Freeze it in place by just clicking. Next, let's grab our text, G to grab, and let's move it up on the Z to where it's kind of floating up here. Love it. Okay, that's all right. Pretty good. Grabbing done. Now let's actually get into modeling and scaling. Last section. Select your cylinder, zoom out a little bit, roll that mouse wheel, and we are going to, instead of pressing G, we are going to press S to scale it. And just like grabbing, it's a little bit different, but it scales on all axes at the same time. So you can see it's the same size or, same shape cylinder, just getting gigantic. When you press S, it attaches your mouse cursor to the center of the geometry of whatever object you have selected. And when you move your mouse away from the center, it either grows or shrinks respectively. You'll also notice if you have your mouse right on top of the object when you hit scale, it's going to go bananas. It's very hard to control with, obviously, okay, if you hit right click, it'll cancel that or nullify any action that you had. You want to keep your mouse cursor away from the center of the geometry of the object because you have to have more control when you're scaling things. So move your mouse away from the object while you have it selected. Press S and make that sucker nice and big. Now, if you see, I'm almost to the edge of the viewport here. You can just keep on going and it starts over on the left-hand side. You can make this thing gigantic. Technically, you can scale infinitely, but we're not going to go absolutely crazy with this. Woo, nice and big. Okay, got it scaled. It's nice and big. Just like moving objects, scaling works on particular and specific axes as well. So now we want to scale this just on the Z axis. We want to shrink this down to be a disk. So we're going to press S, then we're going to press Z, and now when you move the mouse cursor towards the center, it will shrink or expand it. So now we're going to shrink that down to be a nice disk shape. Looks good to me, but it's still a circle. So now we want to scale it on, what is that green one? The Y axis. So press S to scale, and then press Y, and now, we're making a nice little oval. You see how this is taking shape? It's super easy. Okay, that looks pretty good. I'm not quite happy with how that torus is sinking in there. I'm going to zoom into that, and I'm going to pan over a little bit, zoom in some more, and I think I'm going to thicken this up a bit. I'm going to select my cylinder again. I'm going to press S and then Z and thicken it up a little. There we go. Like it. Okay, now I'm going to select my torus. I'm going to grab that, move it in on the X a little bit. There we go. Okay, almost done. Select your cube and scale, zoom out so you can see what you're doing. Scale it up nice and huge. Press S. And now we want to flatten it. So we're going to scale it. Press S, then Z. Move towards the center. Flatten that thing. Looks good. Look at it from the top. Better yet, press Z on your gimbal. Whoops. To look at it straight forward. Zoom in a little. Press S and then Y to scale it on the Y. Shrink it down. Looking good. I like it. And I'm going to grab that. Get it nice and centered. Love it. Okay. And now we need to have this sunk into the cylinder. So I'm going to use my side view by pressing Y on my gimbal. Then I'm going to press G to grab on the Z and sink it down. You don't want it to be exactly sitting on top of it. You want it sunk in just a little bit. Okay, last step, the text. I lied. There's one thing you have to do on the scary panel. Okay, I saved this for last for a reason because I knew you could handle it. Two things. You have to make it not say text, make it say your name. And two, You have to thicken it up. If you've been noticing as you've been rotating around, the text is two-dimensional. It basically ceases to exist when you look at it from the side. So we need to first make it say not text, and second, we need to thicken it up. So for starters, select your text, come over here to where it says object mode, drop that down and change it to edit mode. Now you can just backspace and type in your name. I'm going to do mine, and then I'm going to go back to object mode. Easy peasy. And the last step, to thicken this up, we need to come over to the scary panel with it selected and select A. This is the object properties menu or data. And you're going to click over to where it says geometry. If you don't see it, you can scroll. Click the drop down under geometry and then come over here to where it says extrude and click this arrow a couple of times and watch what happens. Ta-da, we have thickness. That's it. That's all you have to do. You can go back to ignoring that panel. I'm sorry, I lied. All right, now we can treat it like any other object. You got your text selected. I'm going to view it from the top down. And then I'm going to press S and scale it up real big, very big. Then I'm going to press G, move it into position. It's a little bit too big. I'm going to scale that down a little bit. You know what? I'm going to scale it just on the X and shrink that a little bit. There we go. Get it centered up. Rotate your view because it's still floating above. Maybe use your fixed view here. Press G to grab, press Z, and sink it down. Guess what? You're done. That is it. You have made your keychain. That is as hard as it's ever going to be, and you don't have to go any further if you don't want to. Now, I encourage you to go further. Blender is a very powerful software, and you can model just about anything you can think of. But if this is all you want to do, this is all you had to do. So let's actually save this thing. So with it selected, you can draw a box around it. Select all of your objects, come up here to File, hit Export, and you are going to save it as an STL file. STL being the Universal 3D Printing File format, or just 3D format. Click that. The save dialog's a little weird, but I'm just going to put mine on the desktop. I'm going to call it Keychain 1, and I'm going to be sure you hit Selection Only. For reasons that will become more apparent if you get more into modeling. If you export the entire project and you've got multiple objects in there, it'll export everything. You just want to export what you've had selected. Hit export, and you are now done. There is your keychain. You can now go back to the library's website, go to the 3D printing section, scroll to the bottom and request your certification training. Put in your information. Here's where you'll upload your newly created keychain. Select a time that works for you, and hit submit and wait till you get an email back from us confirming an appointment, and we will get you certified. Well, that's all I've got for you for now. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to us via phone or email. All of our information is on the website, and I look forward to seeing you in real soon. Thanks for watching.